Hey guys, I'm back again with another project. Today's project is going to be another bow rack. But like my previous video, I built the bow rack and it was actually made to hold 3 bows. This one is going to be made to hold 1, but it looks a little bit different. And you can either retrofit it for a bow or you can make it where to hang a crossbow as well, depending on where you put your dowel rods. So it'll make more sense as we get it going along. But the biggest thing about this project is the lumber cost. Now, not counting screws, nails, glue, stuff you should already have around the shop. That's inexpensive. The lumber, all it takes is one 2x4 by 8 foot long stud. So it don't get much cheaper than that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started and show you what I'm doing. And the angles, I can't really tell you the angles that I'm gonna be using to make this thing. You're just gonna have to, every bow's different. You gotta measure the hanging points of where you're gonna hang your bow to where, how much you're gonna make on the angle or whatnot. But like I said, it's gonna make more sense. So I kind of go with the flow per the size of each bow and arrow, but you'll see as we move along. So stay tuned and we'll get to it. So don't pay attention to how much lumber I have right here, because I'm actually going to build like 5 or 6 of these as I go along. That way I can knock them all out while I get everything set up. But I'm also building one, as you see right here, it's got left and then it's got pattern wrote on it. I'm going to build this one to keep, and I'm not going to really put it together, but I'm going to keep it so once I find the angles that I've got to cut, I can keep this pattern to mark my wood as I go along. The left side is going to be, for this one, is 25 inches long. And I've already cut the angle on this one, but this is going to be the right side. And if I measure that, it's going to be 26.5 inches. So the left side is actually going to be 1.5 inches longer than the right side. So when I get done, it's going to make a V, and then we're going to turn it into like kind of like a crazy looking triangle bow holder. And these right here are the crossbars that I got cut, and the crossbars are going to be 20 inches in width, or length rather. So it kind of seems confusing now, so I'll go ahead and start cutting. As you can see, as I've already done on this one, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting these angles to where I need them, and I've already got this one marked, so I let it laid out. I'm going to go ahead and cut them, and then we start putting them together to start making a little bit more sense. On this right here, I actually cut the 2x4 with it standing up. That way I don't have to do any special bevel cutting or anything like that. All right, to give you an idea what I'm doing now is a normal 2x4 is 3.5 inches wide, but I actually planed both sides, big edges, and I did the sides too to make this look a little bit better, and also cut down on the sand that I'll have to do. But I found center on both ends, and I got this little piece of scrap wood. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up on the line here, and I'm going to line it up on that line right there, and then I'll just take and scribe me a line all the way across. And once that's out the way, I use this scrap piece of lumber I had, and I'm going to do 7 holes in the top of this where the arrows will go through. Of course, the hole is going to be a little bit bigger than this, and this looks a little rough, but I just did it real quick to give me something to go by to make sure the holes were going to be centered where I needed them to be. So I'm going to go ahead and get this to my drill press and get the holes drilled. And I'll be using a 7/8 inch wide paddle bit to drill these holes. Just to give you an idea, I went ahead and measured them off, and I put like a little line where I need the center of the drill bit to go in. But starting at the end, I'm doing a hole at 2 inches, 4 inches, 7 inches. Right here is 10, 13, 16, and 18. Now, like I said, this one's going to be a template, so I'm going to make this, and I'm just going to have all the parts. I'm not going to put this one together, but all of those I will put together. I just want to have this laying around the shop to where when I have to build more of those, I don't have to go digging and pull up my notes and none of that mess. I can just go off of these templates and just knock them out a whole lot quicker. So now I'm going to go and stick them on the drill press and drill them out real quick. All right, I want to show you what I'm doing here. I've got this set to where it just barely, this tip of this pad, if you're using a paddle bit, if you're using a Forstner bit, it's a lot smoother, but I got it set where just the tip of this paddle bit is coming through the bottom of the wood. I don't have the entire thing coming through, and I'll show you why in just a second. as you can see here, here's this hole, and you can see what it looks like. I don't know if this is on camera or not. Let me back this up. But anyhow, you can see how clean it is on both sides. The reason I do that is if I bore that paddle bit all the way through, it's going to chip all this off, and it's going to look like crap, really. But it'll chip it all off, and I'd rather just take it and leave it just a tip hanging, then go back from the opposite side and bore the hole through. In other words, make sure I get it lined up. All right, now, as you can see, it makes it a little bit cleaner of a hole, and there's a whole lot less that you have to sand. Now, this is the tricky part. As you can see, this is the left side, right side. I just butted up to this. Now, what I figured out that actually works fairly decent is I'll take a clamp and I'll split it right there on that seam. And when I get it locked in, I tighten that thing as tight as I can get it. Kind of help it from separating. And then I'll take my screw and get it started. Now I don't drive it all the way in. I just get it going. Alright, then pop the clamp back off. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see this, but I leave the screws hanging out just a little bit. Trying to bang it off of them wood chips. Then I just kind of let it work itself in and tighten up that seam. Just like so. And then move on to the next one. Alright, this right here is the top piece where the arrows are going to go through. Basically, I've got this little measuring tool, and I took a Sharpie and drew on it where I wanted. So I take it and I'm stick it right here and make sure my mark lines up. This way I can get this piece, center piece here in, and make sure it's even and it's not going to be lopsided leaning one way or the other. I'm not really worried about this side yet. I'm going to go ahead and tack this one in with one screw. And I drew some lines just to make sure I keep my orientation right. Now I'm not going to bury that screw all the way in. So now I'll rotate it. Make sure you can still see. Now I'll just pull this down and get my ruler. Alright, make my little pencil mark. Double check it before I throw a screw in it. And I just take and stick it in there enough to where it'll grab long enough for me to get the drill in here, because this is not magnetic. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and put 2 more screws in and run them all the way in, then that top part will be done. What I did is I measured from the top down to here, like this right here, and got my measurement and scribed a line on both, and just double checking my work. So anyhow, now I need to figure out how big to cut the triangle, and then I also need to figure out how to get this. This is what the bottom of the arrow tips are going to stick into. So to figure out this angle, for me, is the easiest way. I'm going to line it up with those 2 marks that I got on there, and then come up under it and take my pencil, which stupid pencil's got one side that's only got lead on it, and I'm going to draw a mark from the bottom. And so here's my marks. So now I'm not going to lay it flat and cut a bevel. I'm going to set it up just like this on the table saw, on the miter saw. Forgive me, it's late, it's like 12:30 in the morning. But anyway, and I'm going to set it up like this on the saw, and I'm going to cut these two edges off. And then when I get done with that, it should fit and slide right down in there. Then I'll put my screws in, and then I'll go ahead and line up, stick the arrows in and line up where I need to drill my holes just a little bit down so that the arrow tip will sit inside of that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started and be back in a second. All right, so I cut this piece here, and basically what it's gonna do is it's gonna lay in here, and I've got my lines so I can match up the edges and make sure it's perfectly level. And to drill the holes, as you see on this one, I put the arrows in and pretty much got where I want the holes, so I just went ahead and drew the lines all the way across, like making a grid. So everywhere that the lines cross is where I'm going to take the drill bit and drill a hole. Now, since I got this one done, and this one's the same size, all I did was line the two blocks up, and then I made reference marks here, and then I'll take my square, and I'll go ahead and draw the lines across here, and then of course find center and draw the line across the center. So to give you an idea, these are actually going to be crossbow stands, so that way your holes look perfectly symmetrical and when it goes into the slot. So I'm going to go ahead and get these drilled out and we'll continue. What I'm going to do now is I've got this piece of plywood right here laying in the shop. It's I think it's a 1/4 inch. Yep, it's 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to take and I'm just going to rip a little section this way on my table saw. So what I'm going to do is it's going to be a triangle, and it's going to go over top of this. This is the front of the bow rack, so it's going to go over top of that. So I don't waste as much. I'm going to take the tape measure and measure. Like I said, if you do yours may be a little bit different, but mine is a 7 1/8. So basically what I'm going to do is I'll take the table saw, set the width to 7 1/8, and rip that piece in half. Then I'm going to bring it back over here and trace it out. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing ripped. So what I'm going to do is I got this piece ripped. Now this little crossbar where the field tips are going to sit, I'm going to take and I'm going to hang this over the edge, and I'm going to line it up flush with this piece right here. That way I know I've got it straight. And let me give myself a little extra. Alright, so I'm just going to take my pencil, once again this one-sided lead pencil, and I'm just going to come over and I'm going to draw a line tracing that angle. Alright, so there's the angle, and this is what I got to cut. Now these may be just a touch different, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 and 1, because I'm going to cut both of these out at the same time. And that's nice, look at that, get a big old dead nasty bug on that one. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. And get my line. And I ain't gonna worry about numbering this one because I just got 2, so I just got that one. I know it's gonna go with that one. So basically here's my triangles, and what I'll probably do is just cut this off here, and then I'll have this to do if I ever do another one. Nasty. Anyway, so I'm gonna put this on the bandsaw, and you can use a jigsaw. I got a bandsaw, so I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna throw it on the bandsaw and cut it out. All right, I got those cut out. So basically, this is what it's gonna look like. And what I'm gonna do is I'll take my brad nailer and I'll put a little line of glue and hit it with a couple brads, because this is all cosmetic. I mean, it don't really serve a purpose as far as strength or anything. It's just to cover up this ugly hole right here. And I've got a silhouette cameo. You can take and go to Hobby Lobby, somewhere like that, and buy some sort of a little decal or something to put on this. What I did is I used my silhouette and cut out a decal, just made a stencil on the one I built earlier, and then I painted it on. And then when I stained over top of the paint, it antiqued it a little bit, made it look really good. I'll throw a picture up. Matter of fact, I'll throw one up about right now. And so you can do something right here to dress it up. You can put your initial there. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. But it's just a little centerpiece where if you want to decorate it, put something on it, you can. So I'm going to go ahead and get the glue and the brad nailer out and get that tacked down. All right. So this is where I'm at now. What I did was I measured between here and here. And plus, you know, these may vary, so I give it a little bit about where my fingers are right there. And since this is going to be the crossbow stand, this is 20 inches. I found center and then measured over to my points where they're going to be perfectly even. And I got my dowel rods cut. So I'm going to plant these in here, I think maybe a ½ inch, maybe a little bit more. But they're going to go in right here on both sides. And ultimately, this is what the crossbow is going to hang on. So I'm going to go ahead and get these over to my drill press and drill the holes out. All right, so I got let me move these things out the way. I got the dowel rods in, as you can see. So what I'm going to do now, this is an odd size from here to here. And it's not going to match up on your studs. And depending on how heavy your bow or your crossbow is, you know, you probably want to try to hit a stud. So what I did when I mounted mine is, you can see my saw blade burnt mark, so I'm going to turn that on the back side where it ain't going to be seen. This is just a piece of a 2x4 that I ran through my table saw and just ripped the end of it off. So that way it's the same thickness of this. And I'm going to flush this up on both sides, as you can see. And then I'm going to hang these off, measure the distance, and get them completely even on both sides. And then you'll be able to run your screws through each end to hit the stud in your wall. So this is what the crossbow stand looks like after it's finished. You know, of course, other than the dowel rods, which is really cheap, and this 1/4 inch plywood, which is also cheap, and you can just buy half sheets of that. This entire thing is made completely out of one 2x4 stud, 2x4 by 8 feet. So, like I was saying, if you can see what I'm talking about, right here is where you'll probably hit a stud. That's where I did on mine. You just throw one screw in it. That's all I did. It holds mine up. But that's that one. And now I'm going to go ahead and fill in the holes with wood putty and go ahead and start on the bow hangers and get the dowel rods in those as well. Here's the bow rack. So it's pretty much the same principle, same design, but the difference is instead of putting the dowel rods here to hang the crossbow, the bow limbs will hang across the dowels here. So once again, that's just one 2x4 stud for that entire thing right there. So now all I've got left to do is fill all the holes in with wood putty and then let that stuff dry and then sand it down, and she'll be done other than paint and stain. That's going to be a wrap on that project. Like, subscribe. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment. I'll try to answer them the best that I can. And as always, thank you for watching and have a good day.